Professor Mike, I want to just ask you also. Usually, one of the insanity plea has to be that the person did not understand
Right.
what he was doing, he or she was doing. But this guy planned this as if he was Field Marshal Rommel. So how do you prove that when he obviously put a lot of thought in planning this and reconning this and tracking this and stalking this guy? Is that the work of an insane person?
Billy, it's not at all. And Mike Vecchione is absolutely right. See, the problem is there is a lot of evidence. They got it quickly. There is no doubt who the shooter is in terms of identity. You want to interpose an affirmative defense of insanity. You have to admit right off the bat that you were the shooter.
Exactly.
You're pleading guilty, basically admitting to the actus reus. But what you're going to argue over now is the mental state, the mens rea, the state of mind. That's really the only thing that you're going to argue over. And when you interpose an affirmative defense, you actually have to prove. So the burden of proof in a normal case is on the prosecution. But when you have you interpose an affirmative defense, you now, as a defense attorney, have a burden of proving that you actually deserve to be considered insane by the jury. And so it's going to be very, very difficult because of all of his academic successes and everything he's done. He's not howling at the moon, running around naked, screaming and talking to himself like he's in some sort of, some sort of altered state. No, this took a lot of planning, a lot of forethought. He probably rehearsed it a number of times. He got all of everything together. He escaped pretty smartly out of New York. An insane person wouldn't be able to do that. The only thing I can think he could hope for is a hung jury. I think his attorney would consider a hung jury a victory. There's no acquittal I don't see on the horizon. I just think maybe a hung jury.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bill, if he had a few of the people who've been on TV now saying that this guy's a hero, if they happen to sneak through and get on this jury, then Mike is correct. And that's what will happen. There'll be a hung jury because there are going to be plenty of people who say it's an open and shut case. So it's a very good point, Mike.
Michael Vecchione, I want to present something to you here. He's from an extremely wealthy family, right?
Yes.
He was a child of privilege, right? His family apparently owns 12 nursing homes. 12 nursing. Isn't he killing the hand or biting the hand that feeds him? It's undoubtedly his family is just as guilty in this, this corporate hatred that he has as United Healthcare, as the CEO. So was he killing a part of his family when he killed Brian Thompson?
Well, I think we don't know that. He might be. It might be that way. But really, this is something. That point is something that the defense attorney can use to say that this guy was brought up in a family that essentially had medical ties all over their business with the nursing homes, with nurses and doctors and things. And suddenly he changes and automatically now wants to kill someone who is essentially in the same kind of business, not the exact same business. So something must have happened to him somewhere along the line. And I think it'll feed right into her, hopefully, for her anyway, his defense, because I think there's a way that she can work it in. And it might seem crazy, but I've seen crazier things happen with juries, having tried as many cases as I've tried. So, see, all of the things that we're talking about as being kind of crazy in terms of his family, the background, the loving family, they were hardworking, all kind of tell you that this is not the person who shot and killed this CEO on the street in Manhattan. It was someone else. Someone else. I don't mean someone other person. I'm talking about someone who has changed the way that he lives, the way he thinks. And I think that the Luigi Mangione who shot and that gun that night, was radicalized in some way. And I think that she's going to use that. The lawyer is going to use that to prove that he was insane. I don't think, as I said before, he meets the definition. I don't think at all he meets the definition because there's plenty of evidence that said he knew exactly what he was doing and wanted to do it and knew exactly the consequences of his actions. That is not a successful insanity defense, believe me.
No way. You know, I'm glad you brought up the point. I think, and this is my theory, and through this case, I tell people that when detectives get together and investigators get together, they do what I call they hypothesize and theorize, and that's how they get to the bottom of it. Or, as Phil Grimaldi would say, they spitball. You know, they sit around and they talk based on the evidence they have. But I find he was radicalized some way, and I'm going to play a little piece of video, and I believe that this book club that he was in when he lived in Hawaii with a bunch of other like-minded individuals is what radicalized him. And let me play a bit of this, and we can all comment later on.
Yeah, that's why I asked you if he took drugs, because it looked like he snapped at some point and went haywire.
Luigi's former roommate went on Jesse Waters to discuss the sort of discrepancy between the person he knows and the person who committed this murder.
Jay, did this guy do drugs?
Absolutely none that I was aware of. We were roommates for about 6 months at Surf Break co-living, and the entire time that he lived at Surf Break, he was a great community member. He kind of followed by our values and our ethics to leave things better than you found them. He was always contributing, taking care of other people, and even after he moved out, he came and hung out and contributed to the community, spearheaded a book club. He and I became closer friends, working out, going to yoga classes, playing volleyball. He's the kind of guy who was doing his best to take care of himself despite having some severe back pain and a severe issue.
So he had the back pain, but was doing yoga and volleyball and messing around like that. Was this affecting his sex life?
So he was athletic as long as he could be. I know there were days and perhaps even a week at a time where he was bedridden. So he was doing what he could when he could. I couldn't comment about his sex life or, any of our roommates' sex life, just out of respect for their privacy.
I totally understand.